Are you looking for offshoring your company? Because if you are, this video is for you because I'm going to speak about best countries for your offshore company. Hi, my name is Rusudan. I'm a Chief Financial Officer here at Nomad Capitalist, where we help high net worth individuals legally reduce their tax, get second citizenships, and go where you're treated best. So let's start by establishing the fact that the offshore company is a company that you own in a jurisdiction that you are not living or residing in. So if you're in the US, any company that you own outside of the US is going to be your offshore company. You do have lots of opportunities, and I'm going to speak about a few of the best options in a few minutes. But before that, let's discuss why you would want to offshore your business and establish an offshore company. There are a couple of reasons that we see our clients and we advise our clients to establish offshore companies. First and foremost is the tax optimization, because with smartly established structure with offshore companies, you can reduce your tax bill significantly, and that is a very good opportunity for you to use your funds in some better ways than just paying your tax. One other reason for offshoring your company is because it's going to be more helpful for your personal goals, because we have some clients and some people coming to us with certain goals that they have for themselves and for what they want to establish and accomplish. And for that to work, they need to move their business. And please keep in mind that you cannot move everything. Like if your business is physically connected to something, if you have a farm or some kind of establishment that needs to be on the ground, you cannot move that. There are some opportunities to reduce those kind of businesses, but in that case, we wouldn't be talking about offshoring your business. Maybe we would be talking about offshoring parts of your business. Right now, we're going to talk about offshoring businesses that can benefit most due to reduced tax or some other opportunities that you may be able to enjoy in the new jurisdictions. One other reason that you may want to offshore your business is to have more asset protection, because in some countries you get more favorable legal framework and you also get in a favorable position. For example, if you have some creditors or if you have some like third parties and some litigations, certain jurisdictions provide better benefits for you than the other party. So it's very good to have that. And it also gives you better asset protections in regards to having your business separate from your personal residence. It means that those assets are under a different company, and no third party can come to you personally and get any assets from your company, because offshore entities and any company and entity is independent and it limits your liability. That's why we usually have LLCs, and they are limited liability companies. Another good reason to establish an offshore company is to better plan your succession. So if you want to harness your wealth and make sure that following generations and your family can enjoy that without any concerns, I think that offshoring your company and taking into consideration those facts when structuring your offshore business is a good way to enjoy the security that offshore companies can provide for you for your estate. Before we dive into the list of the countries that we think are very good for offshoring your business, I want to also point out a couple of things that you need to consider when offshoring your business. And first and foremost is that you have to look at a bigger picture. So you have to take into consideration your personal tax and your corporate situation, and to make sure that you're choosing a country that is going to work well with the rest of your circumstances. What you also have to pay attention to is if you have a business partner, they may not want to relocate, or if they do, you have to structure their part as well. So it's important to always have a plan ahead before opening a company in another country. You have to plan and then follow the steps in your plan. One other thing that I would also take into consideration, based from my experience, especially here at Cayman Capitalist, is that you have to make sure that the country that you're going to has the infrastructure that you need. And that can be anything from banking or payment platforms, things like PayPal, Stripe. They are not always available in other countries, but they may be very easy for your customers and they may be used to that. So when you're let's say moving from the US and you're moving to a country that doesn't provide those kind of opportunities, you have to consider what you're going to substitute that with. And if there's nothing else, how you're going to present that to your customers, because basically you're changing their experience, and you do not want that to be negatively affecting your revenue streams. One other thing that is, I think, very important is the reputation, because there are certain jurisdictions that have like 0% corporate tax and easy regulations, and it's very easy and cheap to establish a company there. But you also have to think about what's it going to be like on the client-facing front. Like, is it a country that has good reputation, and is it something that is going to affect either be neutral for your client or have a negative effect? So you have to make sure that you take into consideration the reputation, because certain jurisdictions do have some negative reputations that you do not want to be associated with. Now let's dive into a few of the offshore jurisdictions that we would recommend for your business. And I would start to this by saying that there is no one solution for everybody. So the choice between these two jurisdictions, it really depends on your personal situation. That's why at Nomad Capitalist, we always provide a tailored service and the plan that works for you personally, and that is not something that can be copied and be used by, like, let's say somebody partner or somebody else, because everybody has different goals and different backgrounds, and we try to make sure that those are taken into consideration when we give advice about that. The first country that I want to talk about is the UAE. Now, we all know that they have the 9% corporate tax on unqualified income and any income that they have, that the companies have from engaging in business on mainland. But if you structure your free zone company in the UAE and you also pay attention to only having qualifying income, you can enjoy this 0% corporate tax. The UAE, I think, is very attractive because it's a very reputable jurisdiction. It is a very good financial hub, and it's developing more and more in regards to the banking, in regards to the systems for maintenance of the entity. Especially when you have a company there, you have to file some forms or renew some trade licenses. And those things are really very easy there. Like, they vary depending on the free zone that you're working with, but mostly they are done electronically. You can work with them and establish the company there remotely. You don't have to be present there. It definitely is one country that's on our list when we're talking about offshoring any business. Now, UAE also is attractive because there is no audit requirement. I would say that with this 9% tax, they can be a bit more peculiar about the accounting records that you have to keep, but that is a small price to pay for zero corporate tax and all the infrastructure that the UAE can provide for you and for your company. The second option I would mention is Hong Kong. Now, Hong Kong, unlike UAE, does have audit requirement, but it has the history of being very trustworthy, and like, it's a working horse, as we call it, because it is something that has been on our radar for a long time, and it has steadily maintained its reputation. It has a very good banking system, and I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing, but it is backed up by China, so there is little doubt that there's going to be anything wrong with the banking there. Hong Kong companies are also easy to maintain because Hong Kong mostly has English-speaking people, so I don't think that there's any issue with the communication there. And the audit, even though additional work and really it can be sometimes a bit lengthy, still I think that Hong Kong pays off by the reputation and by the banking opportunities that it provides. So definitely something that I would consider if you're planning to offshore your company. One other jurisdiction that I want to mention is the British Virgin Islands. So BVI is the country that you can have 0% corporate tax, and there is no audit requirement. It's English speaking, and the systems are set in a place that you can establish a company, you can maintain it. The fees are not high, so it's quite cheap, and it has a rather good reputation. So BVI certainly is something that I would consider if you're planning to offshore your company. A benefit of BVI is that they do have some very good opportunities, and especially BVI can be used for the holding company, especially good for the people who have US assets, then they want to offshore that somehow. So one attractive thing about BVI is that, for example, it can be used rather smartly for the people who have a US assets. It can be somebody who, it can be a non-US person holding a US asset, and if the value of that is more than $60,000, you do have to pay estate tax on that when that passing on or something, and that can be up to 40%, so that's not cheap. And with BVI entity, you can structure it in a way that those tax is not payable and you have more asset protection because the asset will be under the BVI company. So that is something that can be very interesting and tangibly beneficial for somebody who is thinking about offshoring their business. With BVI, I would say that because it's very cheap and it does have very good reputation, it is not a company that I would recommend for for the business that has like 100 million turnover or something. So, but if you're just starting up and you have a $1-2 million and that's where you are at the moment, I think that BVI is a very good solution because it has good reputation, as we said, and good banking opportunities and can be very beneficial from the tax perspective. So unlike the BVI, the next country that I'm going to talk about is the Cayman Islands, and it's a bit on the expensive side. So the Cayman Islands is historically known jurisdiction. It has very attractive 0% corporate tax and the some banking options, as well as some history of like the Cayman Islands being very attractive and very popular. So we do think that it's a good option, but it's a good option if you have subsequent funds, as it's a bit on an expensive side, especially taking into consideration the banking options that it has, because it's mostly wealth management banks, and any bank that's going to work with the Cayman Island companies will probably have minimum deposits on the higher end. So it is something to take into consideration, but definitely worth being on the radar for anyone who is thinking about offshoring their business, enjoying the benefits of tax optimization and asset protection here. Well, one a bit unconventional jurisdiction for offshoring your business is the US, because lots of you are from the US, and just having a company in the US is not going to help you establish offshore business, but putting it under the offshore business or offshore entity in another jurisdiction is definitely going to help you, because it's going to help you maintain the US infrastructure, because you may already have a business in the US and you do want to make sure that your clients continue to enjoy the opportunities and the infrastructure there. But for tax purposes, you can restructure it in a way that you do not pay any tax, because the entity will be disregarded and all the profits will be taxed in the owner jurisdiction that's going to be outside of the US. Now, you do have some limitations and some criteria to make sure that you are not regarded as like a US taxpayer and generating revenues in the US. And for that, you have to make sure you do not have employees there, or the employees, or you are not very significantly connected to there, because if you have like goods in the US, and if you have like substantial connection to the US, then the IRS may say that you are indeed a taxpayer and need to pay taxes to the US government. So even though it is a very good opportunity, this is something that you have to be very careful and knowledgeable about in detail to make sure that you are not making any mistakes there. So one other more niche jurisdiction is Panama. Now, Panama does have corporate income tax, but with the exemption for the IBCs, you can enjoy 0% corporate tax, and as long as you maintain your operations overseas. So basically, you do not have to be working with anybody in Panama. One other thing that is very attractive with Panama is that you can obtain a residence permit through the Friendly Nations visa. If that is something that you want for you personally, I think that structuring your business would help you obtain that. Now, as we see, there are a few good options to choose from, but I would also be very careful with making the right decision, because this is something that really depends on your personal and business structure. You have to be very careful to make sure that one choice you are making in one country does not go against something that you have established in another. With so many choices, it is rather difficult to make sure that all your different puzzle pieces work well together. So I would recommend contacting Nomad Capitalist, where we make sure that all your puzzle pieces work well and you do not have to worry about anything.